America has a democratic government based on the fundamental principle that all citizens are equal under the law. This idea is so central to our national identity that it was enshrined in our founding document, the Declaration of Independence. For nearly 250 years, we have stood as an example to the rest of the world of a country ruled not by a king or tyrant, but by that guiding principle of equality. But America's bedrock tenet, democracy itself, is threatened today by a burgeoning right-wing movement in America. The danger to our nation is greater than at any time since the Civil War, as we face the prospect of fascism. What exactly is fascism? According to Wikipedia, fascism is a form of far-right authoritarian ultranationalism characterized by dictatorial power, militarism, forcible suppression of opposition, and strong regimentation of society and of the economy, which came to prominence in early 20th century Europe. Professor Jason Stanley, in his book How Fascism Works, The Politics of Us and Them, observed that the leader proposes that only he can solve it and all of his political opponents are enemies or traitors. Two of the most famous fascists in history were Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler. Mussolini was an Italian politician who became the dictator of Italy from 1919 to 1945. He is credited with coining the term fascism to describe, quote, the union of state and corporate power, end quote. Mussolini's rise to tyranny was characterized by the ruthless suppression of all political opposition. He was known for his arrogance and grandiosity and adopted the title of Il Duce, the leader. Under Mussolini's leadership, Italy joined the Axis powers along with Germany during World War II. But following Italy's utter defeat, he was captured and executed along with his wife. Mussolini was clearly a horrible person, but he was far surpassed in the amount of pain and destruction he caused by Adolf Hitler. Like Mussolini, Hitler acquired power legitimately, but he viciously consolidated it. The tactics he used included the use of scapegoats. He demonized Jews, gypsies, and other minorities, against which he incited resentment and hostility on the part of the populace. He widely employed propaganda to reinforce the hateful rhetoric in his speeches, and he formed a private army of thugs known as brown shirts to violently suppress any opposition. Hitler led the nation of Germany through the darkest period in its history, in which horrific atrocities were committed and millions of people died. In the end, Germany suffered defeat by Allied forces led by the United States. Hitler committed suicide while his fatherland lay in ruins. Is it possible that a form of government with such a ghastly history could re-emerge in America today? To recognize some of the telltale signs of American fascism, consider the words of Canadian politician Tommy Douglas. Fascism comes about when a ruling class begins to destroy political democracy in order to retain its power and special privilege. Among the indications that America could be on a path to fascism are the increased efforts at voter suppression in our elections. Ideally, in a true democracy, every citizen should have the opportunity to vote. But in recent years, stringent laws have been introduced which restrict many voters from exercising their right to vote. These laws have been justified as necessary for the prevention of voter fraud, although there is no factual basis for its existence. Democracy cannot survive in a fact-free environment. Even more alarmingly, we've witnessed for the first time in American history a concerted attempt to overturn the results of a presidential election, even though these results were exhaustively rechecked and verified. The unjustified rejection of electoral votes from the 2020 election was nothing less than an attempt to overthrow our government. Add to this a populist president with decidedly autocratic tendencies, and you have some of the key ingredients for a fascist dictatorship. On January 6th of this year, Donald Trump incited his most fervent followers to attack the United States Congress and disrupt the election certification. Among the crowd were known domestic terrorists, and evidence suggests they planned to kidnap and assassinate senators and representatives. In some of the videos of the January 6th insurrection, we witness a frenzied mob savagely beating a Capitol Police officer. It transcends irony to observe that the people who descended on the People's House that day all wanted to make America great again. The events of January 6th exemplify how fascist dictatorships arise, nourished by hatred and born in blood. As he had done many times before, President Trump tried to walk back his inflammatory rhetoric and disavow the violence that had occurred at his behest. He was not very convincing.
My only goal was to ensure the integrity of the vote. In so doing, I was fighting to defend American democracy. I continue to strongly believe that we must reform our election laws to verify the identity and eligibility of all voters and to ensure faith and confidence in all future elections.
The presidency of Donald Trump will end disgracefully on January 20th. He will have the distinction of being the only American president in history to be impeached twice. Luckily for us, Trump failed in his quest to become a tyrant. But it remains to be seen whether America will continue in its role as the preeminent democratic nation in the world, or whether it will depart further from the ideals contained within the Declaration of Independence and become just another dictatorship.